it looks like we are live. So welcome in to everyone who is watching us live and to all of our amazing panelists that we are so excited to have here today. My name is Maddie. I work with Garff Esports, and I'm so excited to be hosting this panel today. So any questions that you have to those of you watching, make sure you're throwing them in our Google form so that we can get them asked to all of these amazing panelists and amazing players. Thank you so much to all of you who are here and willing to talk to our students today. Just to get us started, I'll have you all go through and introduce yourself, the games that you play, and just a quick intro. So start it off with Bosco.
Hello, my name's Bosco. I just am a Rainbow Six professional player. I started my career when I was in college a few years back, and I'm still going strong.
Hello, my name is Lycan, or Justin Woods. I'm a coach for Rainbow Six Siege. I coach Space Station Gaming, and I've been doing that for 4 years.
Hey guys, Splashy from Jazz Gaming, point guard in the NBA 2K League. Got into the 2K League second year out of college, ended up taking a break from college after getting my associates, and I've just been going strong with 2K since then, so nice to be here.
What's going on, guys? Spencer Wyman, or Rhea is my gamer tag, professional 2K player for Utah Jazz Gaming. I was selected #1 overall in 2019. This is my 4th year with the team.
Hi, my name is Garrett. My gamer tag is Nova. I've coached League of Legends at the U, and I've played them on the varsity team. This is
yeah, I'm Jack, or Fraxacious is my gamer tag, and I've been a coach University of Utah League of Legends team for about 3 years now.
Hi, my name is Daniel Finnegan. I'm a retired Smash Bros coach as well as a player, and now I'm playing a lot of Valorant recently, and I also am the president of the club down here at Dixie State Esports.
What's going on? My name is Brunke. They call me Biscuit. I am the Call of Duty head coach as well as a player, and I now became an appointed coach for Valorant.
Awesome. Thanks for introducing yourselves, guys. It's fun to see the variety that we have going on here already. First question that we have, this is from Lily at Manti High, who asks, how many hours do you spend practicing per week?
I'll start. Splashy from Jazz Gaming once again. I play NBA 2K, so I wouldn't even really consider it practicing before the professional league starts. It's more of we're just playing it to get reps. But I would say playing the game per day without getting yelled at by my girlfriend, I would say probably 12 hours a day is probably how much I play the game. And in the league, we play basically like a 9 to 5. You load up at 10 o'clock, you load up at noon, and you play till like 5 or 6. So 6-ish hours in the league, 6 straight, and then out of the league, probably 12 hours. But of course, out of the league, I'm having more fun than in the league.
Yeah, we can go as well. So for the University of Utah League of Legends team, while we're in season, we usually have about 3 practices a week. They last usually, they're 3 scrim games each, so that takes about 3 hours. And then we have a match day on Saturdays usually, and that takes anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. So all in all, it's about like 10 to 12-ish hours per week while we're in season.
Yeah, I can finish this one. For Call of Duty, while we're in season, we have usually 1 match game that will usually last about 1 to 2 hours, plus another 3 practices that we have to start the week. So I would say also about 12 hours a week.
So along those same lines of practicing, we have a question from Enoch at Pleasant Grove Junior High, who says, what types of goals do you set for deliberate practice?
Bam, I'm back. But I would say for practice, well, our practice is a little bit different than the rest of your guys' professions because like we kind of mess around in practice, and then because the way 2K goes, like if you show all your cards in practice, like the team you're gonna end up playing on Friday or Saturday is gonna know everything you're bringing to the table. So we kind of mess off in practice, and then in the game you just bring a whole new thing. So in practice we're more just working on things that we need to pull out as a trump card, basically.
Yeah, I can go for Siege. Practice for Siege, it's more of like it's a very tactical game. So it's, I guess, opposite of for basketball. Us, we have to like practice everything that we're gonna do to make sure like it will work correctly. So then in that regard, we have to be careful who we practice in that sense, because we don't want to play like teams that we're going to play soon. So they obviously don't know what we're trying to do. But yeah, the goal for us is like teamwork and communication and making sure like everyone's on the same page to make sure we can reach like the end goal, which is winning rounds.
Yeah, for League of Legends, since a lot of our practice comes down to just character-based practicing, because there's so many characters you have to play. So we'll come into a week with a goal of probably practicing 1 or 2 new characters and trying to involve them in our practice, and then kind of on the lines of not so much set plays, because it's a lot harder to do that in League, but more just like practicing certain parts of the game. You can kind of prep players going into the game about what to focus on before, so that they are ready to kind of try and perfect that one aspect, so that we can work out all the kinks and then see how the characters we want to involve kind of do that within the game themselves.
Can I ask a question to like the other professions real quick? What I was gonna ask is, do you guys have, in 2K we have this thing we call them scrim warriors. Do you guys play teams in your profession when you practice them? Like they're LeBron James and Michael Jordan, and then like you play them like for like the money in a match day or a tournament, and they're just like, and you're just like, where did all of this go when we practiced them? They were literally the best team we've ever seen. Like, is that in your professions too, or is it like everybody practices how they play?
Yeah, that's definitely a thing for Siege. At least we scrim lots of teams that we say have scrim energy, and they just, you know, they play really well in scrims, and come match day they're not the same team. So yeah, we definitely have that.
Yeah, for League of Legends, it's pretty similar. For the collegiate level, people are just very inconsistent, so not as much for ours. But in the pro scene, they call them scrim gods, and yeah, it definitely happens where everyone talks about how good they are in scrims, and then they play on stage, and it's not the same team.
That's so fun that there's so many similarities between all of your different games and things like that. I'm glad to have you ask that question. Thanks for doing that, Splashy. Here we have a question from Kevin, who asks, me and my brother are very interested in having a career in gaming, but I have no idea how to start prepping for one. Is there anything I should be doing to prepare for this kind of career?
I can go first. I guess the big question is what you want to do in gaming, because there's like the obvious like player side that all of us here today are like a part of, but then there's like big parts of it like social media manager, like team manager, like general manager, and then like even higher up with like CEO of like your own org, like, or so it just kind of like depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to be a player, I mean, the big thing is anyone will tell you here, the biggest thing is practice. um to be able to make it, like there is like a certain amount of gifted ability, but then there's also like the amount like that you're actually practicing and taking your defeats and learning from them. I think a lot common you'll find in gaming, like everyone has this, the person that they play with when they die, there's always an excuse for the reason that they just died, you know, and that person's never learning, and they're literally always going to be that person. You have to try your best to not be that person. And any time that you die, you have to learn from it and try to gain some sort of knowledge from it and continue to get better. And that's the only way you'll reach where these people up here on the panel are today, is getting better every day and taking yourself seriously.
I can literally bounce off everything he just said. It's literally the same in NBA 2K, but the difference is obviously you're not dying. It's reps. You're gonna lose. Everybody loses. Everybody in this panel has lost before we were pros. Obviously, once you get to the top level, when you play casually, if you don't know what casually is, that's when you play like versus regular people like that, like have a 9 to 5, or you play versus your old heads, whatever you call them in your community. Like we're not gonna lose to them, but when you play other people at your level, you're gonna lose. Learning from losses. It's a $250,000 tournament in 2K for the game mode called My Team. I recently won it, and the last 3 years I've literally choked all 3 years. I made the finals year before, lost to a great player who went back to back this year, lost the 2 years before, didn't even make it to the finals. You just got to learn something from your losses and just keep going. Like it's only so much that the game is actually doing when you have to figure out like it's you that's losing. So let me look back at this film, or let me look back at this game, and like I need to change this because I keep making it this far, but nothing's happening. But other than that, it's just reps. That's what I say to a lot of people. Figure out what game you want to play for. The internet literally has all the answers you'll need for whatever you want to be in that game mode or video game, and just reps. Just play it as repetitive until it almost gets, you need to make it muscle memory. That's how good you want to get. Everything you do, you need to make it muscle memory. All of us up here, everything we do in our profession is almost muscle memory until we're playing versus other pros. So get it there and just convince the parents that gaming is actually growing quickly. That's the main thing too. Try to convince the parents as early as possible.
And to touch on that just a tiny bit, the biggest thing, if you don't have a passion or a love for the game that you're trying to play, like you'll never go anywhere in that. So make sure you're picking a game that you truly have a passion and love for, and it's literally the easiest thing to play. Just get the reps in and really just put your full effort into it.
There's definitely a lot of passion, I think, in this panel for all of your games. I know I'm over here being like, I'm so passionate about all of these games and how amazing all of you guys are, and so fun to watch for all of them. Let's move on to a question from Pleasant Grove High that asks a little bit more difficult of a question that says, how much mental fortitude does it take to stay focused and on top of your game when everything is on the line?
I can go first again. It's actually like a scaling kind of answer. I think when you first start out, it takes an insane amount of mental fortitude because you're new, you're like doing something you haven't done like maybe as much, or like, you know, players that you're playing against like have more experience than you. That kind of situation, I think it requires you to have a lot of mental fortitude. But after you start doing it for a while and you kind of get comfortable with it, and you've been doing it for a while and you're confident in your own game, and you know like you say you've beat the other team like a lot in practice, or you know you're just like better at the person that's like against you, it starts to kind of like take less and less over time, I would say. So at the beginning, it's just like really kind of about knowing that when you first get in, you're probably going to take a lot of bumps and bruises because people have been doing it longer than you and they probably know more things than you. But like taking those and learning from them, like we just said on the last question, and getting better, then like after a while, like it doesn't even feel like when you get up on stage like it's even a big thing anymore. So it just like it's like one of those things where it takes time.
I agree with what he said. It's almost the same thing as the last question. It's just reps. Obviously, when you first get in, same thing as me when you're a rookie. You're not gonna, unless you're just an anomaly, you might come in like my teammate Spencer Rhea. He came in, it was just amazing. Yeah, it's 1 in a million for that in almost every profession. But other than that, you're gonna have to work. And my advice usually, especially when I talk to pro players, is treat it like it's scrims. If you play your game like you make that one play a game, that might put your team up more than the other team because maybe they're playing nervous. And for the people who are trying to get to our level, when you're playing a game or playing something for some money, just play it like you're in your crib. Even if it's a local tournament, high school tournament, college tournament, play it like you're at your house in the comforts of your own home. You'll never get nervous in the comforts of your own home. So that's usually my advice. So mental fortitude doesn't really strike as much, but when it does, I just say experience is what gets rid of it's what strengthens the mental fortitude.
Yeah, I think one of the main things is, especially in League of Legends, because we play best of threes or even best of fives when it gets deeper in tournaments, is you have to know that your like small mistakes that you could probably get caught up on and you probably should get caught up on practice isn't that big of a deal in the actual game. Making small mistakes, dying when you shouldn't, just doing something, maybe not getting the kill that you should, isn't that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, because it's one play in one game, and that might not even be the most important game of the series. So I think a lot of times when I see my players get upset about plays that don't really matter, you have to learn from that, and we have to grow as a team and make sure that the team can help them. And that's the nice thing about doing team esports, is you can kind of pick up some of the teammates that maybe are struggling a little bit on the bigger stage if we have veterans or just people who don't struggle with the stuff like that as much. So I think it helps when you're in a team and when you're playing more long extended series, because you can kind of remove that one bad play out of your mind and just move forward, and you can still win.
We've definitely spoken a lot to experience and to learning how to deal with loss so that you can move on and win. So maybe this will go right along with that. I don't know. But we have a question from Connor at Provo High, who asks, what is the most difficult thing with being on an esports team? And with that, maybe I will ask, can you speak to what it is like to work on a team in a game, in your individual games?
I'll go first. I got two. The first one, obviously, is losing. Losing that matters. Like, not gonna say like a regular season game, first game of the season, second game of the season, because until this year we didn't have a tournament setting like most professions we have. Obviously, it's like the NBA. You play 20 reg season games and then you make playoffs, etc. Losing gets to you, especially when you lose two players you know you're not better than. Underestimating teams, etc., etc. You go in and you just lose. Second, I would say I had to figure this out is dealing with losing when you know it's not your fault. That's the point of being in a team sport. And I think last year I finally got that, like, because I was one of the better players in the league, probably top one or top two in the whole league. So like when you're losing and you know you're doing your part, you have to realize, my quote that I came up with is control what you can control. Like at that point, you need to get your team to the same page as you, because when it's a team sport, teams are going to win. One player can't win, even in 2K. I hope that's the same in you guys' professions, but like have to get your team up to speed. Like last year, we went to the finals and we ended up losing. We actually got swept after making a Cinderella run. It was just like, I was good, but it was me to a certain aspect with my teammate. Like we were just both two of top 5 players in the league, and you got to realize, like, get everybody up to speed. You can only get so good in your profession or game because it's going to be somebody else who can one up you most of the time. So then at that point, you got to use your other 4 players or 6 or 7. For us, it's 4. So dealing with losing and figuring out how to use your team to attack, basically, is the 2 things I would say.
Yeah, I think that's pretty similar. I think one of the hardest things for me to deal with as a coach is probably games where I feel like I'm kind of helpless, obviously, because I'm not in there playing the game. And so I try to set up my team for the most success. But sometimes you think going into the game that you have a good plan and then it all falls apart and you just are watching your team struggle there because you forgot about something, or even the plan that I set up didn't actually work and I'm making it harder for my players, and I'm just sitting there watching them struggle because of something that I messed up. And so that's probably one of the hardest things that I have to deal with. But I mean, that just comes with coaching and stuff. That's why you got to prepare and make sure you learn from those experiences, just so you can improve for the next time, so that you can make sure everyone is like prepared and ready to play no matter who the opponent is.
I think really the obvious one is losing, but I'll try to take just a different route so we have like some different answers. I think dealing, at least in team aspect, like which most of us here are, dealing with how different people handle adversity or some sort of conflict, because you'll have people that grow up in a bunch of different places, and some people I would just say are harder or like they can take things and it doesn't touch them. And then you'll have people that are very sensitive. And if you even try to come at them with just like a small kind of like improvement, they'll take it like kind of to heart. And they'll be like, well, like, why is he coming at me like with this? So trying to learn how to like reach people on your team and know how they want to like receive that information, I think is a really important skill in esports.
Just piggybacking off what he said, I literally missed that. I was wondering what I missed. It's the way I would explain it for us is figuring out what everybody's learning curve for accountability is. Most of these people have been playing by themselves or playing solo. So when you get in a team sport, like they don't think that one play might have mattered, or maybe they think they can just be as toxic as they were at home. Everybody on your team you can talk to different. Obviously, if it's your boy and you got him on your team, I can talk to him any which way I want. But then you might have another player on your team, like you got to figure out what his learning curve of accountability is, whether it's you got to get him some points or get him a good kill so he can lock in for you. You got to figure out what everybody's niche is in it. And that's actually, I would put that over losing for me. Like trying to figure out how to almost like make everybody on your team comfortable. You have to find a way to give everybody on your team comfortability so everybody performs. And I think that's a big part of everything.
Yeah, I would corroborate with that as well. I think one of the biggest changes from going to just playing at home to playing with a team is the fact that when you're playing at home, you kind of have to play for yourself. A lot of the advice people have when you're just kind of like we call it solo queue or just like playing like your ranked mode or whatever is you kind of have to know how to set yourself up for success if you're trying to improve, because you don't want to rely on random people that might just do dumb stuff. But when you're in a team, you have to have people that you trust, and doing one thing that you would normally do is going to screw over one of your teammates, and that's not good, because that's going to, you're like trying to win as a team, not just do well as yourself. And I think that's one thing people don't get used to is people will come into a team environment and do what they've always been doing, and then they realize that, oh wow, this actually makes the game harder for one of my teammates, and one of my teammates is actually someone who's good and not just some random player online. So I have to get used to not just making the game harder for all of my teammates.
Awesome. So we've spoken a lot about, how kind of behind the scenes of the game, but maybe going back into the actual mechanics of the game. We have a question here from Zach from Manti High School who asks, is it better to be focused on your main or to be more balanced with others?
I can start this one out. So League of Legends, there's hundreds of characters at this point, and what I've told all my players is get good at a few, 3 to 5, because if you can get better and you can learn the game instead of having to learn new characters and new things every single time you play the game, you'll generally get better, and then you can apply that to other characters down the road, and it makes it a lot easier to climb and get higher rated.
Yeah, I think League of Legends has two kind of aspects of that, obviously, because there's main characters and there's also main roles. And so if you're trying to say improve at mid or some position like that, you can just play a bunch of that, just play your 2 characters or 3 characters, and that'll improve you there. But I think one of the best ways to improve overall at the game is just to play everything. If you play, even if it's just like 2 or 3 of the roles, you can see different perspectives of how your role works. So you can see how different people interact with what you're trying to do. You can say like, oh, I thought this that I normally do is fine, but seeing it from a different perspective makes me realize that it actually makes it really hard for this role, or it makes it really hard for this kind of teammate. And so I think it gives you a lot better perspective. So if you're properly trying to improve, I think kind of focusing in on your special things, but also occasionally branching out and trying other things just so you can see different perspectives is very useful.
And piggybacking off that from them, for like Smash or like Valorant, right? I think with Smash Bros, it's very valuable to play a couple different characters, get kind of a general like guide of like how they play and how your opponents might be playing them as well. And then to really bring that into your main character and maybe use some moves, for example, that you don't typically use that you might have found different situations to use them. And with Valorant, what I recommend to all of our players is to play all the roles, have like one character you can play confidently in all the roles. And then once you're confident in all those characters, pick a role you're really enjoying playing and then really like put all your time and effort into that. And then you still have all those resources and can understand the game in a more fundamental level as well.
Okay, another one kind of on how to play the game or how to be great at your game, I should say. We have a question from Keith from Provo High, who asks for tips on how to get better at aiming, which maybe is game specific, or for communication, which I think all of you have worked on teams and can speak to that.
I can start this one off. So for Call of Duty, we actually just got aim labs to work for Call of Duty for the whole setup. And so I have all my players working 3 to 4 hours a day, just learning snaps, learning headshot movements, and just learning how to follow your crosshair on to somebody. And so with that repetition, we always just try to get it engraved into their head, as well as just always playing and playing and playing and just always trying to get better.
Yeah, for Siege, we just got a deathmatch mode into the game, which was huge, which we've been asking for years for Siege. We have aim labs as well. Aim labs is it's I feel like it's person specific. If you like doing drills like that, some people when they start using aim labs, like it kind of like becomes monotonous and it doesn't really help them in game. So like it really is kind of like do what you like feel like works best. I have players that use aim labs and I have players that don't. So it's kind of just like up to you, but you got to make sure like basically you're just grinding the game. Just like he was saying earlier, reps. It's all about just making sure that you have that like muscle memory when you're flicking and you know like exactly like where you're going to be aiming when you're trying to like get onto a target and you understand like where that target should be. And aim labs is really good for that in a way because they have drills where you can like learn common places and stuff like that. And then deathmatch is more, I would just say, for understanding how people move normally, because like it's a lot different than like just going against a robot. But all of that just comes down to just pure reps, just learning reps and just getting used to the game that you're playing and understanding like any FPS, as long as you kind of try to match your sense through all of them, playing FPS is like just constantly is the way you're going to get better. Any of them.
We sadly don't have aiming in 2K. We do have communication, and the thing, my key, I learned this probably 2 years ago. Nobody can read your mind. These aren't your family. This isn't your best friends that you usually get with, unless you're just lucky and like you get a good coach and he brings on the whole team. Like nobody can read your mind, so just let everybody know what you're thinking. If you but I thought you were gonna, I thought you were gonna, just say it, like, and just go with what the first person says. That's why I love communication. I'm actually one of the most talkative people in the league, probably most talkative person on our team. Just let people know where you want them to be, or let people know what you want them to do, because if you communicate and then something happens, you already know what was wrong, rather than something went wrong, we didn't communicate, now we got 3 problems. We didn't communicate, we don't know what we should have did here, etc., and who we should have listened to. But when you communicate is, okay, we did this, now we're going to communicate it earlier and do this, and it's going to avoid this. So communication is one of the biggest aspects of our esport.
Yeah, I actually would like to hit back again really quick because I forgot about the communication part. Communication for me as being a coach is like one of the most important things. Like I almost rather somebody be able to communicate to a point where they might even better than that than the game. But that's because I play a tactical shooter. Obviously, like in a game like NBA, you need to have like raw skill too. But I would say what I always tell people is if you feel like you aren't communicating correctly, you need to over exaggerate your comms to the point where you feel like you're doing it more than like you should. Because obviously if you're not calming right, then that's it. Like you're doing it now more than you were before. And as you kind of like do that and push yourself and continue to talk more, then it'll just become a habit and then you'll get better at it. The other thing I would recommend is there's tons of teams out there, ours included, that put out comm videos after matches. You should go and listen to like pro comms and see how they're talking to each other and addressing problems, and then learn to address problems the same way that they do.
And for League of Legends this year, we've had quite a few team meetings about communication, trying to figure out who wants to actually like talk and make calls, because we had a lot of newer players that were afraid to make mistakes and afraid to make the wrong calls. So we found a communication system to feed into one of our more veteran players who would make the end call, and we'd always follow along with whatever he went with. And then we talk about it after so that we could learn about the game instead of, worrying about how to learn how to communicate.
Yeah, I think one of the main things is a popular mantra in League of Legends is like, if everyone is following a call, it's better than like 2 people following the right call and 3 people kind of like half following it. So even if it's like maybe not the best call, but it's a call, as long as everyone's following it, that's the chance of it succeeding is so much higher just because everyone's on the same page. So I think kind of having someone that can make the final call and just be like, yeah, okay, you've all given me the information. I'm making the executive decision. This is what we're doing. That way everyone knows exactly what the plan is and people aren't like, oh, I thought we were doing this, or he said this, but I didn't really think that was the right play. That just makes it so much harder for people to talk about it post game, right? You can't talk about a play that you made after the game if only half the team made it, right? So then it just becomes like a communication breakdown afterwards, and that's just so much extra time as opposed to everyone just making a call, and then afterward you can be like, okay, was this the right call? Was something else the right call? But you can talk about it afterwards.
So this maybe follows along the same lines then of communicating and working together well, but we have a question from Cedar Valley High that asks, how do you create strategies? Is there a formula you follow? And how often do you just wing it in a tournament when something isn't working?
I can start off on this one. So for a lot of our strats, we'll actually watch we'll watch all the CDL guys, all the CDL teams, and see what they do. And we'll break down second by second, movement by movement to see how they move out the map and where they're even looking at. And then we'll apply it into our game, see what works, see what doesn't work. We'll communicate that throughout. And then we'll just keep pushing and pushing until we find it and it clicks for all of us. And it just falls like dominoes, and it just becomes a really great habit that we always end up learning.
Yeah, to add on to that, I would say that creating strats, I feel like it kind of differs for every team. Not every team can make every strat work. Teams have different players, they have different play styles. So it's all about just like figuring out what works best for you, whether that be like getting ideas from other teams that have similar play styles, or just like going into a lobby and breaking down the map yourself with your teammates and trying to figure out what, coming up with something that works best for you and applying that in practice and just learning from error pretty much.
All right, so we've talked a lot about how you guys communicate, how you deal with loss, how you play the games. Now I am curious on how you got to where you are. So kind of if you could speak to your path to playing esports at this next level.
I'll start. The way I got there, the 2K League probably came out in 2019, 2018-ish. I was still in college. I was actually still playing basketball before I ended up getting injured. And if you talk to anybody who plays 2K, that is going to be the first thing they tell you. They are probably lying if they say, hey, I tore my ACL doing this and that. But I actually tore both ACLs, ended up recovering perfectly. But basketball, I'm a little short. I'm like 5'6", 5'7". So, NBA just wasn't it anymore. So, I was like, cool, I want to be in the fake NBA. And my mindset when the 2K League came out was, they just can't be this much better than me because it's an NBA game and like, it's only so much in there. It's just, if you have the raw skill, you have the raw skill, then it just comes down to reps. So the way I got here was basically, I ended up just playing rep after rep. I was playing that game 24/7. I was probably playing it like 15 hours a day. I was still living with moms, et cetera, et cetera. And it was just a bunch of reps. Then it's networking. Networking is an underrated skill when it comes to professional level esports. Like, if you can talk, you can literally do anything. If you can talk in front of a person, whether it's a coach, another player, if you can wing it, if you don't know how to talk, that's how you get to the higher stage. And then after you get to that higher stage, you're going to end up networking with somebody else. Keep just piggyback yourself up. In 2K, it's more you got to piggyback yourself, not really a team. So like, I ended up getting in, and then you just got to just make a splash, like just like my name, no pun intended. Like that's really all it is. You just keep doing it, and I ended up getting here, and I just keep rising as of right now, just because I think it's my personality and the reason I'm always willing to talk, no matter what the situation is, even if it's a media day, whether it's a panel just like this, I appreciate being here, of course, whether it's post-game commentary, just always being alive and looking alive. That's how I got here and why I'm going to keep growing in esports.
Yeah, I can go next. So I was in the Navy actually when Siege came out. I was in the military, and before Siege, my main game was League. I played League since basically a month after release from the game, so I've been playing it for a long time. So shout out to the League guys on the panel. But yeah, I've also played shooters my whole life. I grew up playing Xbox and playing Call of Duty and stuff like that. And then, so like, it kind of, Siege was like a perfect match for me with champions, you know, like League does, and then like ops, and then playing like a shooter game. So it was like a perfect mesh of everything. And I actually, at the young age of 27, 28, I was in the first ever Pro League seasons for Siege. And then as I got out of the Navy and I started going back to college and got my degree, I realized I was kind of running out of esports age life, if you guys know what that means on the panel. So I was deciding I was probably going to have to hang it up and just focus on going to college. And Space Station Gaming, they got the players that were on the team then were like, hey, if you're going to quit, like, you want to be our coach? And I was like, sure. I hadn't like considered it, and I've been doing it ever since. So.
Yeah, we can go next, I guess. So, way I got started is I knew that there was a League of Legends team here at the university, but my junior year, I kind of was like, you know what, I need to get involved on campus. I need to do something I'm passionate about, and I've always watched a lot of League of Legends and played. I was never like insane. I'm definitely not as good as the players that are playing here in varsity level, but I came to tryouts just because I wanted to meet people, and I met the coach through that, and I kind of just messaged him afterwards, and I was like, hey, I'm not planning on playing. Like, I just came to kind of meet people, but I wanted to let you know that, like, if you need any help, whether it comes to just coaching or helping people with communication and stuff like that, I feel like that's probably my biggest skill set in terms of the game, that I can help you out with that. And then he reached back out to me and had me send in some of my thoughts about different games and stuff. And then we talked for a while, and then he had me come through, and I started just helping him with that. That was about 3 years ago, or two and a half years ago. And I just kind of started learning from him and just kind of being at practice and learning through that. And then as time went on, I got more and more knowledge. And then I became, this year, me and Garrett became the head coaches together. And so I moved kind of up from just being an apprentice to it, the coach, and learning through that to actually end up being a proper coach and having like power in the team and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think just getting involved with whatever you can just to get started, and like Splashy said, networking is huge. Meeting people is how you make your way up, and unless you're rank 1 of whatever game you're playing, it's kind of hard to make a name. So make sure you network and don't be afraid to reach out to people.
My question to everybody on the panel, I got another one. So when you're playing the game casually, are you having fun? Like, when you get to the competitive level of most of our games, like, obviously you're just stomping on kids most of the time, unless you like stream or something. Like, when I'm playing 2K just casually, like in the off season, like I'm literally winning every game by 50, 60. You guys are probably pub stomping everybody, 60 kills, 2 deaths, et cetera, et cetera. And then when you're at the professional level, is it fun or is the competition fun? Because when I play the game casually, I could start like, it's not as fun anymore. I'm more just playing it to get as good as possible. So when the money comes in, or like when the tournament starts, I'm ready to already perform. But when I'm in the league, the game isn't fun, but the competition is fun. So I just wanted to get y'all opinions on that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've been playing games like my whole life, and I used to love pop stomping people. Like, I would enjoy it so much. That's what I would get the fun out of. But then when you start getting to a higher level and you start realizing that like fun comes out of different things at that level, like the hype from winning games, you can't replicate that in like casually playing the game. So for me, it's not as fun. It's just like, yeah, getting reps in and like staying on top of your game. But then competing is like where I would say I get the most out of it at this point. So
I'd say both are fun for different reasons. You know what I mean? Like on a casual game, you can like play with some of the people that you don't typically play with, right? And with competitive like tournaments, for example, you can kind of really like hone in some of your communication skills, hone in all of the things that you've learned, and it really brings everything together. And I think that's what creates the excitement and really is fueled by that passion you have for the game that leads to that huge amount of fun and huge amount of just value you get from competing at higher levels.
Yeah, I would agree. It's hard to replicate like a match and stuff like that, but we still like we'll all play the game together. And I think it is a little bit different than NBA is, from at least what you're saying, because when we go into casual games sometimes, well, ranked games, we're like trying to chill and have fun and play games with each other like after scrims. So we're like, I mean, we're still trying to win, but it's like we're not playing at our highest level. So, and like the people that are playing against us, they see they're playing against us. So like they're trying their hearts out. And so there are times when we just get wrecked because we're like, all right, like we're just trying to have fun and relax, and these guys are playing like it's like the Super Bowl, you know. So I mean, there are those moments, but and I think like yeah, it's hard to beat that feeling when you're on stage, but it's something that I think it's important as a team too, is to learn how to like have fun and play the game outside of scrims together, because it builds a lot of camaraderie, and just like getting and playing with your team and having fun. So there's like two sides to it, but there are times when we don't pub stomp, you know, because you know people love it.
Yeah, we have a similar thing. So in League of Legends, there's a mode called Flex mode, which is kind of the mode if you're trying to play with a bunch of your friends, but in a ranked-ish setting. And we have a bunch of players who are notorious on the team for being what we call for fun when it comes to that mode. And so people will just kind of play off roles and do maybe suboptimal things and play characters that are hard, but they don't play and they're just fun and stuff like that. So I think when you play with your teammates outside of like actual scrims, you just want to like do for fun stuff, just because I mean, especially in league, because you're just grinding like the same role over and over. So I just take this role like mid. Say you're playing mid over and over and over again. If you're playing with your friends, you don't really want to keep playing mid and keep playing the stuff you've been practicing. You just want to go and play something else. And then there's another game mode called ARAM, which is basically just like a 5v5 one area. You just like fight the entire time. And we do one of those before every like official match as a team, just to kind of have fun. We just get 10 people in a game and we just fight. We just all get in the same call and just start like trash talking and having fun and stuff like that. So I think if you're playing like to win with your team, it's also nice to get some time when you're just kind of screwing around and having fun, and because you're a team and you want to make it so that it's actually a fun environment. You're not just like super focused 24/7. Obviously it's different when you're doing collegiate stuff like we are, as opposed to like actually being professionals and being paid and stuff like that. But I think that's kind of just where our team is at.
Maybe along those same lines of making sure you're still having fun while playing the game, we have a question from Cedar Valley High that asks, how often do you experience burnout and how do you get past that?
I can go first, being a coach and having to deal with potential aspect of burnout. I would say typically you talk about burnout. Hopefully you don't reach burnout. It's more of like something as a coach and also as a player that you just need to be aware of. You know, like you're playing the game and like just little mistakes, you know, you pass the ball and it gets stolen, or you like you peek and then like you peek again and the guy kills you because you shouldn't have peeked again. Like those like small mistakes, like you get mad at those when you would have never before. Like that's like kind of when you know when you're like reaching potential burnout. And as a coach, like knowing like, okay, we probably should like go over this strat before practice, but like people were getting kind of aggravated yesterday. Okay, we're not going to do that. Like we're just going to no early practice. We just got the scrim today. Like that's it. Like just kind of like being aware of the situation of burnout, I think is the most important thing, and not allowing yourself to ever get there. Like that is something that like you want to never deal with. So hopefully you're just always aware of it, and you just kind of like, take breaks when you need.
I actually, how I was talking about the $250,000 tournaments. If you guys know what it is for my team in 2K, I made finals this year. I won it, and then I made finals last year and I lost it. And the reason I lost it was because that was the first time and only time I've ever reached burnout. I locked in. I probably didn't play another game mode. I scrimmed every good player on PlayStation for probably a full month. I had like 5 pages of notes on who I was gonna play in the finals. And then I realized when I got to the finals, I was just like, I'm mentally exhausted. Like I did everything I could have did, but like I didn't wing it. In our game, like winging it comes in for you to like, you have to pull something out your back pocket. Can't use no profanity, but you got to pull something out so you can, finish winning or do this or do that. So the thing that I did this year differently was I kind of chillaxed on the way up to the finals, and then I used everything in the finals, but I was winging it at the same time. Winging it is something that usually, like even in our game, people can't predict anomaly stuff as if you're winging it. You've never done this before. Hey, I'm finna try it. Or like if you have your team, we've never done this before, so I'm gonna try it. So burnout is probably the most realistic thing that people talk about, but when you reach it, you realize like, dang, after I lost the 250 finals, I don't think I touched the game for like a week because I mentally couldn't. I just wanted to sleep because I was staying up 16 hours, staying up 18 hours, game. I probably memorized every animation, everything on the game, and that just didn't get me anywhere. So like, don't overexert yourself if you don't have to. You know when you have to, but like calm down, because burnout is they're not lying about burnout. Like when you burn out, you're done for at least a week. You have nothing else to do.
Yeah, we have speaking also as a coach, you have different players who kind of approach stuff like that differently. You have players who are just like insane grinders who can just play all the time and never get burnt out. They're just like playing the game. You log on at midnight and they're going to play for 3 more hours, and then you check the next day and they're on before you even start playing. And but then you have players who just kind of do it more casually, and they put in their practice, but they're not going to put an insane amount of hours in. So I think it's different for every person, and kind of finding your sweet spot is the perfect way to do that. I mean, if you enjoy the grind and you think that the grind is what makes you good, then you can do that. Or if you just think that I'm pretty good, and as long as I'm getting in my reps, but I'm not like overexerting my mind, then I'm at my sweet spot. So I think finding your sweet spot is good. And as a coach, it's kind of helping the players find their sweet spot as well, is a huge part of identifying potential burnout. And then you also have kind of an off season for us, at least. So our season just ended a couple weeks ago. Doesn't start back up until the school year starts next year. So we have a big off season just because we're obviously school. And so I think taking your time off then, I mean, we have a ton of people who don't even touch the game for like 2-3 months during the off season. Then they get back into it, and then they start playing once they know the season's about to start, and like tryouts, and the team is going to start kicking off again. So I think finding your sweet spot and then just taking your breaks when you know you can is a huge part of staying like mentally like into the game still, and not just being like, oh, I have to go to practice or I have to play. I don't like this game anymore, but I know I'm on the team. So stuff like that is kind of what kills a lot of teams and players.
I think an important thing with burnout is really just like the coming to terms with like video games aren't really like everything. You know what I mean? Like you should really try and find a balance in your life, especially in like your school life, in your esports life, really competing, socializing, as well as just like relaxing. Like especially in the United States, I feel like not everyone relaxes as much as they really should. So maybe kind of find like what you really gain a lot of value from, whether that's like going on hikes or socializing with some friends. Really find what keeps you going, you know, like what refills your glass, you know.
All right, sorry if I dropped out there real quick, but we are officially in the last 10 minutes. So maybe I want to jump to a little bit more lighthearted of a topic. Thank you for speaking on all of those harder things to talk about, parts of gaming. But we've gotten a ton of questions on, do you play Rocket League? Do you play Among Us? Do you play Smash? If so, who do you main? So I think they just want to hear, what other games do you guys play?
I can go first. Other games, I already kind of said, like, I play League, and I play mostly bot lane for League. I'll play both AD and support. I find it a lot harder to actually grind and carry with AD. So I typically like to actually play support, even though I think I'm probably better at AD than support. And then I like to play like a lot of basically puzzle games, which is why I think I found myself as a coach for like a strategic tactical shooter. I like to play like chess, Hearthstone, like just other stuff that kind of is like Slay the Spire, just kind of stuff that like kind of like gets at your mind and makes you think, and makes you like solve problems. I also play Val, like I play other shooter games, CS, like in the downtime as well. I play like pretty much every shooter. Like I'll play Call of Duty as well with the boys. And because like I do think like the big thing to know, like if you're gonna be an FPS player, there's certain things in certain FPS games that's like it's more crucial to know in that game than probably it is in your main game. So like Call of Duty, you know, running and gunning is like very like high in that game. And then like CS and Val, like standing and making sure you're taking precise shots, more important in that game. So like you're learning different skills, like, and you have to be better at those to rise in those games, and like learning those skills and then taking it back to your main game, it'll make you only better. So just kind of like trying to take skills and continue to make yourself better while also having fun is important as a professional gamer.
The games I played is different. I play Sonic. If you have a PlayStation, it was free with PlayStation Plus. Just a fun game to play with your friends. Most of the games I play are like games to play with your friends. I play WWE, the new WWE, just for fun with friends. I usually have an 8-man lobby, 6-man lobby, etc. I play Jump Force. If you guys don't know, it's an anime game. I'm a big anime guy. So like Dragon Ball Fighters or Jump Force. I love playing anime games. And another game that I picked up, which this was my first time ever playing a game like that, was Elden Ring. Pretty sure most people touched Elden Ring, literally the hardest game I've ever touched in my life. Just getting completely blasted for probably like 5 to 6 hours as soon as I got the game. So it was different because it was fun. So I like playing games of that nature, like either whether it's with my friends or like Elden Ring was just a challenge, and it was fun because it brings you something different. So those are the games I play in my off time.
For me, I play all sorts of games. When you catch me on MLB The Show, Madden, FIFA, Smite, World of Tanks, top 1% in that game. I'm just kind of all around gamer. If there's any game that has like a competitive edge to it, where I can be elite at it, like I remember when Apex first came out, I was crazy at that game. I was on Warzone, crazy at that game when it first came out. I just play anything that's kind of like the trend. I get good at it and just dominate. That's what I like doing.
Yeah, so I play, I mean, there's different, like when I'm playing with friends, I can play anything. I play obviously League and we play like Valorant with my friends. And then with my roommates and stuff, we just play like Smash and Mario Kart, just games that are like easy. You can just kind of turn your brain off and play stuff like that with your friends. And then if I'm playing games with myself, I used to play a lot of sports games and stuff like FIFA and Madden. I never was really good at 2K, so I didn't really bother with that, but stuff like that. And then, yeah, I mean, just like sometimes you just find new games. I played Lost Ark when it came out, but then I stopped playing because it got grindy. But I mean, you just gotta move your head to whatever game is interesting. I mean, especially if you're just like grinding one competitive game, just finding stuff that's like a release, even if it's like a different game every month. It's nice.
Yeah, and I've played Halo, Call of Duty, Valorant. I love FromSoft games, so Elden Ring, Dark Souls. I've actually 100%ed them all. Love those games. They're really fun, and I love the challenge.
Trust me, you're not missing nothing with 2K, brother. I
Perfect. Well, we will actually end there because we are running out of time. But thank you all so much for being here, for being willing to speak on your experiences and on your games. So awesome to be able to hear from so many amazing people, and so many of you Utah-based is really awesome as well. Thank you to everyone who is watching, to all of our students and teachers and advisors that we have. We appreciate you being here, and we hope you guys have an amazing rest of the spring celebration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can everybody here drop like they social media in the chat? Like if y'all got Twitter, I just want to follow. I like keeping up with other communities and seeing like what it's like. So just drop y'all Twitter in the chat so I can follow y'all.